Harley is the girl with glitter. Here's your look at the DC Collectibles DC Artist Alley. Sho Murase. This is the Harley Quinn Clear Cast Sparkle variant. Sho Murase is half Japanese and half Korean. She grew up in Europe and has been living in San Francisco, California for the past 10 plus years. This mix of cultures is reflected in her work, merging Asian manga and Western art influences with a personal dark twist. In her spare time, she works on her personal art. Her artwork has been exhibited at the German Film Museum in Frankfurt and the Louisiana Modern Art Museum in Denmark, among other places. To get this review underway, going to take the tape measure, put it right to, I know what you're thinking. I know what you're thinking. I know what you're thinking. You're saying, why is this guy going past her head? Well, the honest truth, if I can address the mob, is the fact I'm actually going to her pigtails, which as you can see sits a little further than the top of her head. And answering the call of how tall she is and going to the top of her pigtails, you're looking at a statue that's standing 7.1 inches in height, which in centimeters works out to be, let me go ahead and do that right now, 18.2 centimeters tall. Now, Harley Quinn is the third statue of a 3-statue release that we've looked at from Sho Murase. If one thing definitely does stand out, though, to her, it's this glitter. And the fact that she doesn't look in color scheme to what we looked at in the standard release Poison Ivy. It's because the clear cast sparkle variant of Harley Quinn is a Hot Topic exclusive. And while we do comparisons, I did want to look at them from various different variants. Here she is. We'll put her right next to the Catwoman. Now, this was the iridescent variant that was the BAM Books A Million exclusive. And then we also looked at just the standard release. This is the standard release Poison Ivy, which should be available in all comic book stores. Again, I really did want to have a look at different, distinct, as these would really be all part of the same 3-statue release, but as you can see, they are very drastically different from one another. We started our review with the iridescent version of Catwoman. She looked very much different from the others, and much like Poison Ivy with the more colors familiar to the standard releases, Harley Quinn here again gets very different changes, and we'll have a look at those now. Though I don't have the standard release, but I do have, however, the card that comes included. With this Harley Quinn, we can kind of get a rough idea of how those colors would have translated. The reds and the blacks are certainly blended together, as we saw with the Poison Ivy statue release. Again, when we look at the Harley Quinn here, we're going to have some very different looks and colorings. Very much looking forward to that. But before we look at that, we still get the familiar card that came included with all the statues, the familiar DC Artist Alley, and what I believe to be the signature down below of artist Sho Murase. The other card, unfortunately, like the others, doesn't have anything on it. It's just DC Artist Alley down below. I did want to mention, though, that the quality of paper very much feels like, not quite maybe watercolor paper, but it does have a texturing to it that makes it very much different than regular conventional cardstock that you may be familiar with. We put that to the side, and one of the accessories, yes, Harley Quinn actually does come with an accessory. She comes with her mallet, and the mallet gets as much the attention as the statue does with this really cool glitter effect. The clear cast sparkle variant basically means that this is a translucent plastic, and all the areas of the white have been simply just painted over top of that. The glitter effect definitely does look quite good here on the mallet, and will equally so look good when we have a look at the Harley Quinn. But before we do anything, of course, we're going to want to take the mallet and put it into her hand. Let me just show you where that hand, where the placement of that will go. So you're going to take the mallet, and the head of the mallet will be facing this side here. You'll see one hand does have a hole through it. Very carefully, as again, this is it's plastic to start off with, but as well, on top of that, it's also clear plastic or glitter plastic. So I don't know how much more fragile this will be, regular versus regular conventional plastic. As you can see, there is the Harley Quinn with now mallet in hand. You can see how she holds the mallet quite securely with the three fingers and the pointer finger sticking out there. And then you have, like I said, the finished product. Flip the statue upside down, which I actually didn't do for the Poison Ivy. Underneath, we have Artist Proof 09 out of 700. Yes, the Hot Topic exclusive is rather rare, sitting at around 7, sitting exactly, I should say, at 700. The iridescent version of Catwoman sat at 800, and while we're actually at it, here is the Poison Ivy. The Poison Ivy was out of 3,000. So the standard release is 3,000, and this one happened to be an Artist Proof 24. Just put that away there. So having a look at the statue, I quite rather like the pose that they've given Harley Quinn, a really rather playful, almost if I could say punk style of design for her. Gone are really much the traditional outfit that you would expect Harley Quinn to have. The alternating reds and the blacks are now completely dismissed in favor of an all-white and all-red glitter effect. First of all, I want to talk a little bit about her head sculpt. Really do like the head sculpt that they've given her. I don't know if those are supposed to be eyelashes or if it's simply just makeup that she's pointed out from the bottoms of her eyelids, but it does look quite good. I like the fact that she's very much kind of flirting her way by looking off to the corner, possibly looking at you, the collector who has managed to pick this one up for themselves. She's very unique in the sense that she's got pigtails, but the pigtails are rather long, draping their way down almost in a similar way that the vines draped down on Poison Ivy, the one that we looked at before. But again, I really do like the head sculpt quite a bit. I could only imagine how much better this would have looked if we had gotten the black and the red version. Eventually, I may want to source out maybe the other variants of these and then maybe do a comparison down the road. As much as I love the variants, I'm usually somebody that also likes to get my hands on the standard release as well, just so I can kind of see the starting point in which they sort of based the figures from. As a talking point, I also want to bring in the box just for a second. Now, we looked at the boxes before with the other statue releases, but the interesting thing I want to mention about the statue, let me just spin the box around. These were the 3 different glittered characters. These were all the Hot Topic releases. So as you can see, they all favored one color. Well, one color and white. And all even like the whites were almost slightly different shades. So it looked like even Catwoman might have had her white face, slightly a more purple tint. But the coloring was the exact same. Well, the purple, I should say, was very similar to the iridescent one that we looked at. Also, as you can see, the Poison Ivy here was also done in the all green, and Harley Quinn here was done all red. But that's not actually why I wanted to bring the box in. We spin the box around. There's some artwork there's on the side. I know I usually talk about the boxes. Well, I don't even really talk much about the boxes in these reviews. Usually I just do a turnaround. But I just want to turn your attention around to the image that's featured on the front of the box. Based on this image, and based on this image alone, I'm actually not that big of a fan of the face or the statue as a whole. If you look at the actual face, this is one of those instances in which I actually feel like the physical release was much better than the packaging that would be depicted here. Based on that, I don't think the head sculpt is very much good at all. Based on this, I think the head sculpt is far superior. Just wanted to bring that to your attention. We'll just put that to the side. Now, I didn't actually pick up any of the other clear cast sparkle variants. Harley Quinn was really the only exception, and same with the iridescent, or iridescent, I should say, the iridescent variant. I always want to say incandescent, the iridescent version of Catwoman. I only picked up that iridescent version of her. I didn't pick up the Poison Ivy or the Harley Quinn. So again, like we continue the looks at this, slightly taken our delay from looking at the box artwork here. Love the white. The white, of course, commands as much the presence as the red does. Although the red, you have to admit, does grab your attention a little bit more so, because you're seeing a lot more of this glitter effect. I'm not sure why specifically the legs get so much more of the glitter. They actually come across, as you can see there, a slightly different shade from the lower pants. I'm assuming that these aren't shorts and these are leggings. I would think that these would be all one pant. The pant leg to the top of the pants, and then simply on this side, there's no pant leg whatsoever. Kind of like Ruby Riott from WWE. I'm comparing wrestlers to Poison Ivy and to Harley Quinn here. Love again how the white carries its way and kind of shares the space with the glittered red here on her hair. I don't know if you can see it here, but one ponytail, one pigtail, drops down to her shoulder, runs across, and then runs all the way down her arm, down her leg, and actually almost touches to the points of her boots, about mid-calf. The other hair, as you can see, right there, spin it around, drops in between her arms, again runs down about the same length, and again stops at around the mid-calf section. You can see that she's wearing sort of like elevated, I want to say almost like military boots. They look like they stop about mid-calf, although this one seems a little bit higher, but it's likely just because her feet are bent, or this one foot is bent. They've even sculpted in the tread, which I do like a lot. But again, the only jarring point to this is this leg right here doesn't quite match to this coloring here. It's almost as if this was done over top of the white surface, because it almost seems like the white is peeking through underneath that, which I don't really think is necessarily the case. Paint, actually, for the most part, what little there is generally pretty clean. I don't see any real imperfections whatsoever. I mean, for the most part, this is probably, again, all cast in this anyways, so it would be very tricky anyways to mess that up. And probably the paint, the white paint, has been done over top, even though, again, here it kind of looks like it's behind it instead. The more I look at this statue, honestly, the more I'm actually really loving it. I don't know if it's on the same level as the Poison Ivy, but I have to say, of the three figures, of the three statues, my favorites are the Poison Ivy, and by far the Harley Quinn. Catwoman is no slouch, but as I mentioned in the review of her, one of her biggest problems being that she is an iridescent version of herself. A lot of the features, a lot of those details get lost, especially in the face. Being that at least this one here is the clear cast sparkle variant, none of the paint unfortunately, none of the, well, in a good way, none of the paint takes anything away from the figure. And actually, if you even if you look really closely, you can see that there's glitter in her mouth, her eyelids, and also her eyebrows, leading me to believe again, like all of this from head to toe is cast in this, and then all the white elements are painted over top of that. When you get to the face, that's where the real appreciation for this comes into play. The fact that they would have possibly, the fact that they would have painted, as you can probably even see from the way that the hair is, this is all molded this way, and to get around those areas to showcase the face is a pretty accomplished feat, I have to admit. Couple only with the fact that it's a really nice flowing, sort of playful statue. The bonus on top of that is the fact that you got this really cool glittery red making up the majority of her body. One of the unfortunate things that come when it comes to reviewing statues like this that come in variations is once you review one variation, one variant, you feel compelled to want to complete the set. This has happened a lot of times with the DC Artist Alley statue releases, that when they come out, they don't just come out in a standard release, they may come out with 3 or 4 different variations, as we've seen in the last 3 videos. The Catwoman, of course, being the iridescent version, was the BAM Books-A-Million exclusive, which also came with iridescent green versions of Poison Ivy and iridescent versions and red versions of Harley Quinn. Same thing could be said for this one. The only one that we didn't look at yet was the holiday releases, the holiday variants. I might feel compelled to eventually want to pick those ones up. And where I may not be as compelled to get the rest of the iridescent versions, I really do like how the clear cast sparkle variants turned out. I think I happen to pick the best of the bunch. Poison Ivy, I think, would probably have turned out quite good in a glittery green, but there's something to be said for the fact that Harley Quinn here comes packed in glittery red. It just seems to fit the character perfectly, especially with this type of design to her. Unfortunately, here comes the sad part. The standard releases, like we had looked at, are more of circulation. The higher the number, the better the circulation. You should be able to find those at your local comic book store. The iridescent version, as well as the clear cast sparkle variants, are exclusive to certain companies. So if you wanted to get this one, for example, or the Poison Ivy, or the Catwoman, you would have to find and source out a Hot Topic, which unfortunately I don't have in my area. So I may, if I want to get the Catwoman and I want to get the Poison Ivy, I may have to check online and see if I can get my hands on them that way. Really neat looking statues, and I'm thrilled for the fact that I was able to actually have a look at different variations of them and showcase these to you guys. A big thank you, by the way, to the folks over at DC Collectibles who had supplied these, just in case you were wondering, and that's how I was able to have a look at different variants, all making up the new DC Artist Alley Sho Murase statue line. This just happened to be the Harley Quinn. If, again, you guys are interested in picking these ones up for yourself, depending on which variant you go with, the standard release will be more easily able to find. And then again, if you are looking to get the exclusives, you'll have to probably check online. That may be your best bet. These aren't the most new released statues, so availability may vary, of course, from place to place and site to site. Good luck and happy hunting. Today we were having a look at the DC Artist Alley. This is the Sho Murase, and this was the Harley Quinn Clear Cast Sparkle variant. That's going to be quite a considerable title, and this was also a Hot Topic exclusive. You guys want to go back and have a look at some of my other statue reviews? Don't blame you. There's a playlist just for DC Collectible statue reviews. And while you're also at it, if you haven't done so already, make sure you hit that little subscribe button down below, as certainly more videos will be coming soon. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you guys next time.